What is going on, everybody? It is me again. It is HorrorFan34, and welcome to another video, and welcome to another weekly watch challenge video. Want to give a good shout out to my buddy Rob for participating in this. I actually came up with the idea of this topic, and basically, for those of you who don't know what this is that we choose a topic per week, and then we limit ourselves to at least one movie per day, so that way it's not too overblown, because I can't watch 30 movies within like a week. I don't know how I can't watch like 6 or 5 movies in one sitting. I just don't know how people do that, but I digress. So basically, for this particular week that we did Survival Week. Basically what that is that these are movies where they could be about a person or people being hunted by someone or somebody or something. It'd be like a creature or, people in general. And they basically have to survive, pretty much. Survive an ordeal or a situation that they're in and things of that sort. So basically, this is Monday through Friday, and basically I'll announce what the next topic will be for next week at the very end of the video. So without further ado, let's get on to this week. And once again, Rob, I really do appreciate you having me on for this challenge and things like that. It's been a lot of fun so far. But getting on to the topic at hand, the first one that I watched, so I watched off with Monday. I figured I'd start off with this one for Survival Week because it is my favorite movie of all time, and I just adore this film very much. Judgment Night. Easily had to make this my Monday movie. My favorite film of all time. I fell in love with this film for the first time probably well over 10 years ago, probably around 2010. I fell in love with this film. I bought it on DVD, which is actually in here, signed by Steven Dorff. He was a cool guy. And the fact that Warner Archive got their hands on this film is amazing. Granted, you're not going to get any features because it's Warner Archive, but it's still really cool to see the film in HD, and I think it looked great in HD, looked really good on Blu-ray. And the story, very simple. 4 guys go to a boxing match, they take a shortcut to the wrong part of town, and they end up witnessing a murder, and then from there on, they are chased by these thugs, pretty much, and because these thugs don't want any witnesses. And the 4 buddies, you have Emilio Estevez, my favorite role of his, other than the Mighty Ducks. You have, like I said, Steven Dorff, you have Cuba Gooding Jr. and Jeremy Piven as the friends. Dennis Leary as the villain. Always really cool to see Dennis Leary as a bad guy. I'd probably say it's my favorite role of Dennis Leary is as Fallon. And other people in here, you have Peter Green, who is Dennis Leary's henchman. He was Loki in The Mask, and he was... no, sorry, not Loki. That's Son of the Mask. Dorian from The Mask. Zed from Pulp Fiction and Blue Streak, a lot of other movies. He's in here. And it's a very simple, very fun thrill ride, pretty much. These guys get chased by Dennis Leary and his guys, and the whole third act is absolutely amazing. The fight between Dennis Leary and Emilio Estevez is just fantastic. So, easily had to be my Monday movie. Now, for Tuesday, this is a good film to watch with that film back-to-back. Survive the Night, which is the female version of Judgment Night, pretty much. But kind of a different kind of story where this deals more with these 3 women coming home from Thanksgiving dinner at a relative's house. They're running out of gas. They take an exit off a freeway into the rough part of town, and then they get harassed by this street gang, pretty much, and then from there on, the car runs out of gas eventually, the gang finds them, and then from there on, they have to survive the night. Hence the title. They got to run on foot, things like that. And the cast in here, you have Stephanie Powers, Kathleen Robertson, and Helen Shaver as the 3 girls. like I said, you have Curry Graham, who was Dr. Edwards in Cabin Fever 3. He's in here as the villain, Ice. The music done by Fred Mullen, the guy that did Friday the 13th Part 7 and 8, really enough. Probably say my favorite musical score of his is definitely this film. Love the way the musical score is for the film. And basically, it's a really good film to watch back-to-back with this, pretty much. This is the guy version, and here's the women version. I think both are very well done flicks. And this one, I mean, I love the character of Ice, the villain. I've talked more about that though. Like I reviewed it like a couple times before on the channel. But that's a really good double feature right there. These two. Then going on for Wednesday, Alone in the Dark. Had to watch this one because it is about 4 mental patients going after a doctor and his family, and they have to survive the night from these 4 maniacs, whether it be Jack Palance, Martin Landau, Erland Van Lith, or the Bleeder, pretty much Phil Clark, who plays the Bleeder. I talked more about this though. I reviewed this film a year ago when I did my 31 Days of Horror challenge. I'd probably say the horror film with the coolest cast, I would say, like the biggest cast. Like I said, Jack Palance, Martin Landau, Donald Pleasance, Dwight Schultz, Erland Van Lith, who was in The Running Man. He was Dynamo. I mean, and I really like the way that like all these characters like kind of get their own way to shine while dealing with these 4 mental patients. It's a pretty cool little horror flick, not to be confused though with the Uva Bowl based on the video game, but that's a cool flick, Alone in the Dark. And I think it's pretty cool, like, how it takes place during a blackout, and then these patients escape from the mental asylum and then go after the doctor and his family. Then for Thursday, Southern Comfort. Without a doubt, one of Walter Hill's best films. And basically, it is like it's basically a Deliverance. Basically, you have these guardsmen in the Louisiana swamp for training, and then there's an error when one of their guys shoots at the locals, and the locals take it the wrong way, and then they get chased, and it's kind of like a fish out of water story, or a fish out of water story, where, it's kind of like guys kind of out of their element because they don't really know about the bayou or the swamps while the locals do. So it's kind of like their own little cat and mouse game between them. Great cast of people. Keith Carradine, Powers Booth, Fred Ward, T.K. Carter, who was in John Carpenter's The Thing. Very well directed by Walter Hill. Love the location of the Louisiana swamps, and I like the tagline says, "It's the land of hospitality unless you don't belong there." Great flick, Southern Comfort. And then the last one I watched for Survival Week for Friday, I had to finish off with this underrated gem, Raw Courage. For those of you who have not seen Raw Courage, I highly recommend that you give this film a look. If you like films like Deliverance or Southern Comfort, I highly recommend this. It's basically Deliverance or Southern Comfort, but in the desert, pretty much. And it's about these 3 marathon runners. You have Ronnie Cox, Art Hindle, who was in The Brood, and the Octagon, the original Black Christmas. You have Tim Mayer, who was in Psycho 2. They are 3 marathon runners going through the New Mexico desert for training for their big marathon coming up. It's like a practice run. They're out there running, and they end up coming across like this sort of like militia group headed by M. Emmett Walsh, who are doing like their maneuvers and things like that. Starts off as a joke between them. They're saying like, "Oh, come on, I'll get you a beer," things like that. And then eventually, these 3 runners see that these military people are treating this woman that works for them horribly. They're calling her names and treating her harshly. And one of them speaks up and says like, "Hey, knock it off. The military folks don't like that." And Emmett Walsh, who's their commander, lets them go with a warning. But then they go back on their threat before one of these runners ends up getting killed, and then from there on they are in deep trouble, and then they are being chased by these military folks on motorcycles, pretty much. and that's pretty much what the title, what the film is. So if you like films like Southern Comfort and you want to see kind of like in the desert sort of like form, I highly recommend that you give this film a look. I love the way that Ronnie Cox, like, he produced the film and wrote the film. I really like the location of the desert. Definitely gives you that feeling of being hot and being dehydrated while being chased by these crazy military people. Love the landscape of the desert. Has a really cool part where there's a rattlesnake and they're rolling down this hill and there's a rattlesnake, and Ronnie Cox has to like stop dead in his tracks, and I'm not going to get into it a whole lot, but very cool flick, Raw Courage. And so that is pretty much it for this week. So to recap, we have Monday was Judgment Night, Tuesday was Survive the Night, Wednesday was Alone in the Dark, Thursday was Southern Comfort, and then Friday was Raw Courage. So those are the films that I watched for this week. Now, coming up next week, me and Rob are going to be doing Sports Week, which is another topic that I came up with. And basically for that one, it could be any kind of sports movie. It could be baseball, football, basketball, golf, hockey, it could be any kind of sport. It could be, anything. Hell, if you want to do the original rollerball, because that is a futuristic sport, there you go. That's another sports movie for you. As long as you don't watch that remake. But that is pretty much it for this weekly watch challenge. Thank you very much for watching. And Rob, once again, thank you once again for having me participate in the challenge. And I will see you guys next time.